Hey, my name is Thomas and today we're going to shoot the Nikon F3, Nikon's flagship in the 1980s and also their first professional camera with an electronically controlled shutter. So let's have a go. The F3, as I said, it's the first camera with electronic shutter control. That means you've got the A setting here. You have to push this to get to the other settings. You can go all the way up to 1/8 of a second. Then you've got the B setting and the T setting and the X setting. X is for flash exposure. T is a long time. You press only once and it will remain open until you move the wheel. And B is the normal setting where it remains open as long as you press the button. This is the on-off switch, which is hyper hard to move on this camera. They often get a bit sticky. It's really a pain in the ass, but you can keep it on all times because it really only if you press the shutter, the circuitry really becomes operational for 16 seconds. And this one, this over here, this is for your self-timer, electronically controlled self-timer. There's a flashing light here. This is your depth of field preview. You need that also if you use very old lenses that don't have the AI coupling. And this is a manual shutter button. When your battery dies, you still got like around 1/80th of a second here. You see? Click. It works without batteries. This is to remove your lens. Here you've got an exposure compensation dial. Again, you have to press the tiny button here. Everything is kind of fiddly to use actually, but there's a lot of buttons to make sure you don't accidentally move your setting. This is a professional camera for like journalists. They really wanted to be sure that you can just throw it somewhere in the back and after you pick it up the settings didn't change. Lift this thing here to move your to set your ISO. We put this on ISO 100, and even if you want to open, you have to lift this to open the back, but again there is a lock, so to make sure it doesn't happen. So why is it open now? Oh, it's on T. I had it on T and press again. I show you how the T setting works. Open. It stays open until you move the dial. In case you forgot your cable release, the T setting is very handy. The shutter is a horizontal shutter with beautiful titanium blades. Since the very first Nikon F, they were using titanium blades since 1959. Compare that with your Leica M6. And then we've got another cool thing. Let's close it. If you want to do double exposures, you shoot, and then if you flip this switch now, the film won't advance, but it switches back automatically to make sure again that you don't forget, that you don't inadvertently let it on double exposure all the time. Down here goes your battery. Of course it's got a winder connection, and yeah, that's it. Nikon F3. Oh, I forgot a thing. This is still rolling. Of course, the F3 has a removable viewfinder, and there were a lot of different viewfinders available, waist level finders and whatnot else. Also, the screen is removable. That's professional Nikon of the day. Oh, and now I still forgot to tell you about the eyepiece shutter. This blocks stray light that could affect the metering when you're using the camera on a tripod. And then there's also a small illumination button for your LCD viewfinder readout. But sadly it doesn't work on this camera anymore. Okay, loading. Again, here's a small interlock. From now on, it's very straightforward. We put it on a short setting. Tidy blank exposures, 2 of them. You see this moving, ready to shoot. So I'm shooting this guy today with my Nikon 35mm f2 lens. You already saw a review of that lens. This Nikon takes any Nikon lenses, non-AI, AI, autofocus, everything, as long as you've got an aperturing. So normally your camera has an automatic exposure. That means the aperture only stops down when you shoot. If you're using Nikon non-AI lenses, the old ones that don't connect to the modern aperture indexing, you press this. This is your depth of field preview button. But then you press this and you turn this. And now as you see, it's always on working aperture. So the metering will always work. Also with these old lenses. Just go back and you're in the normal automatic stop down aperture mode again. So the one-digit F series, Nikon F series, was always the professional camera of choice. Started 1959 with the Nikon F, of course. In 1971 there was the F2, which added the 0.002 of a second, and also the F2 was marking the conversion from the non-AI system to the newer system, so there was a different setup of viewfinders for these cameras, because with the F and F2 the viewfinder was responsible for the metering. That changed with the F3. You still can exchange the viewfinder for loop, viewfinder, waist level, whatnot else, but the metering system was now in the camera. And also, as I said, it added automatic exposure, which back then was a big deal. And the F3 came in 1980, but because it was a real manual focus camera, it remained in production until 2002. It was the longest production run for any single-digit Nikon F camera. You know what that yellow thing is over there? If you're young, you maybe don't. It's a German telephone booth. These things were everywhere in the 1990s. So the people in London had these beautiful red telephone booth style, but we got these ugly ones. And this has been transformed into a piece of art by now. But yeah, I don't know, 10 years ago you still would see them anywhere. So the Nikon F3, it looks a bit more handsome maybe than the F2 or F models with their huge photomic viewfinders. And also, this is the first Nikon that Giugiaro designed. He did the Nikon EM and he did the Nikon F3 with this famous red line here for the first time ever that a Nikon had a red design element on it. Started with the Nikon F3. Also, when you look from the top, the way how the shutter button is centered around the lever to advance the film, you also find that in the baby Nikon EM, Giugiaro. Nice thing about the F3, many other cameras also have that, but not every camera has it. It's got a exposure lock button, so you take a reading and then you press this button and then you take the shot. But as you see, it gets a bit fiddly because you're like pressing here and then maybe shooting here. I'm gonna shoot this pack shot. Taka, the guy who shoots my videos, many thanks by the way, bought this beautiful Sony 85mm lens, so I'm gonna take a pack shot. It's in the shade with the sun in the background, and I'm gonna use this to read my exposure. So I'm reading now 1/25, and then I recompose a bit like this maybe. And that's it. Maybe the most compact way to shoot any single-digit Nikon, this F3 with the original viewfinder, not the HP, and Series E 50mm lens comes in at just under 850 grams. The viewfinder of the F3 is gorgeous in regards of comfort. The eye relief is huge even on this original viewfinder. There was the F3 HP, which had a bigger, more heavy viewfinder with even more eye relief, but I found even this original one is super usable when wearing glasses or sunglasses. And also there's that feeling of precision, I love that. Even the split image and micro prism aids for your focusing, they feel just that little bit more clear and definite than in so many other cameras. For example, my own once a split image can't match this feeling. On the other hand, there's the totally boring, uninspired readouts, that boring LCD screen for shutter time, tiny plus and minus signs, and then the analog readout for the aperture. Basically any other camera has a nicer looking viewfinder interface than this. Also note that the old viewfinders never came with diopter adjustments. That's a thing from the modern age, but the F3 viewfinder fits all those Nikon screw-in lenses, and this screw mount is still the same today in the Z9. Time for the verdict. Hard to judge this camera. I mean, I'm shooting a legend, and what's really nice when shooting a Nikon like this is you don't worry about it to fail. Yes, these things are like 30-40 years old, so maybe there is time for a rebuild sometimes, but in general terms they always work perfectly, and even the electronic features work. So back then the camera has this digital readout in the viewfinder. It was said by Nikon themselves, you need to replace that maybe every 7 years, but actually all these readouts still work today. They can get dim a bit, they do fail, but it's kind of rare, and you see when they fail. It's not like from today and then tomorrow it fails. So generally speaking, you're shooting an auto exposure camera, and you still feel it's very reliable. You can take it anywhere. You don't always need to bring a backup like with many other automatic cameras, so that's nice. What I don't really like is it's fiddly to operate in times. There's so many interlocks to make sure that you don't inadvertently change anything, but that makes it really fiddly at times to operate. So that's not that nice. You saw how I was operating that this exposure lock button, and it was a bit of a pain in the ass. I actually prefer shooting an OM2, for example, but this camera is much more reliable, I feel. So shooting a Legend, I think it's worth to pick one up today if you like these cameras. It's about 700-750 grams body only, so it's not the most lightweight of cameras, but you feel the professional quality in your hand, and it's a nice feeling. Also balances nice with a bit bigger lenses like 85 or 135, stuff like that, or maybe even zoom lenses. Hey, I said it, shoot analog and still use zoom. Yeah, this is a good camera to do that. So overall, highly recommended. It's also a camera I feel I grow on it. So I picked it up the first time, I wasn't that overwhelmed, but when I shoot it, I really learned to appreciate it very quickly. So that's a good thing. So that's it for today. I hope you liked this video, found it interesting, maybe even useful. If you did so, then please leave a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so yet, and also leave a comment in the comment section in case you've got any questions. I love to read all your comments and I will happily answer every single one of them. So have a great time, live long and prosper, and I see you in the next video. Bye.